Hello there, everybody. This is Lights, Camera, Accolade coming at you for the holiday season. We hope you all enjoyed some festive celebrations with your friends and family. And we are, of course, back here with a special Christmas episode of Lights, Camera, Accolade. This time we watched an all-the-rage movie on Netflix right now called My Secret Santa. So some of you may have already seen this one, but if you'd like to hear us banter about it a little bit, this is a preview here, as always. But if you'd like to listen to the entire thing, you can visit us at patreon.com/lights camera accolade. Thank you, and stay warm out there.
One for the ages, truly. It'll be up there with A Christmas Story and all sorts of beloved. Watch it on repeat every Christmas. No, okay, so your summary actually made me realize, obviously, there are going to be plot holes in these types of movies. You're not really supposed to think too deeply about everything. But her daughter still, assuming, got 50% off for the tuition, but she was working under a fake name as Santa. So how did her daughter get the discount?
She wasn't working under, she was, she had her actual name on file. Oh, wait, no, but that was just her social security number. That was her social security number, yeah.
Maybe
it was like, this is my, niece or something.
Maybe. Okay,
my granddaughter,
maybe.
Because sometimes your kids marry. But
have different last names and stuff.
It does
I really
take you out of it when there's those continuity errors in movies like this, because otherwise it's like a perfectly constructed world.
Right. That was
it's
the
total cohesion.
One weakness.
As we said, I love these settings that are just like between 40 to 70 people that live in the town. They're showing up to all the functions. Everybody is hyper involved in everybody's business. People are very, just happy-go-lucky. It's like this uncanny version of reality.
I don't know. I'm still thinking about the plot holes still, even while you're talking. Just because, as we mentioned while watching the movie, the main character's name is Taylor, which could be male or female name. And so it really seemed like they were truly setting it up to be like, ooh, this is how, she'll get past the paperwork stage of things.
Instead, but then they just brush arbitrarily.
And then so I'm sitting here like, was this written by AI?
Very well could have been.
Here's my thing is that, and to your point, Sarah, so I watch 1 million Hallmark movies every year.
So we have an expert.
I don't. So this is kind of new. Yeah.
I've got a friend who has, I don't know if she still keeps it up, but she has a spreadsheet of like I think this is when she was in law school. So she needed something else to focus on. But she has a spreadsheet of like every Hallmark movie that she watched. And it's like the guy's profession, the girl's profession. So she could essentially track like, okay, how many times does the girl live a job in a big city to go marry a reindeer farmer or whatever.
Right.
So I'm not on that level. However, from being friends with her, I have seen 1 billion Hallmark movies at this point in my life. And there is something, like Jake was saying, something really satisfying, weirdly, about kind of like inhabiting that space and just kind of like turning off your brain and watching something really tropey. But the thing I find most frustrating with any mid to bad Hallmark movie, or in this case, Netflix doing Hallmark, is when they kind of don't, like the logic doesn't track anywhere, where it's like there's so much opportunity for this concept to be like better executed in just as cheaply made and that kind of stuff. If only they like did a second pass on the script and unified it a little bit. But
But is there intentionality and self-awareness there, to be charitable with the filmmakers? Like maybe they know,
maybe
that's what part of what makes it endearing, that it's like shitty.
You might be right.
I do. Like, conceptually, I think this was very cheesy and fun, but could have either just been a little bit more cohesive or just a little bit more fantastical. Like I said, if she first put on that Santa hat and then transformed into Santa, I'd be like, oh, I'm here for this.
Magic. Because when you have magic, if you can gloss over those plot holes. That's one strength
like in
of
Hot Frosty last year.
I know this is the 300-pound gorilla in the corner of the room, but I'm immediately drawing comparisons to Hot Frosty. And I felt like because this was more empirically based, this movie, you do see those grounded plot holes a bit more. They're a bit more glaring. Whereas in Hot Frosty, you're like, well, it's magic, so it's fine.
Right.
You know?
I will say, I think that this is out of all the like Netflix pseudo Hallmark movies, I think this one is probably the most successful in terms of like actually aping what the Hallmark style is. It has a like a more adult lens, I guess, because there's multiple sex jokes in this movie, or like the whole locker room sequence, right? That would never be in a Hallmark movie. However, the general vibe and clunkiness of this is much more closely aligned with the vibe of a Hallmark movie, I would say. So Hallmark, watch out. I guess Netflix is coming for you too.
That's the
like
next
in a more
buyout,
direct
the
way.
next acquisition.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting flip. Obviously, last year in Hot Frosty got just very, very overly sexualized by everyone in the town. Like everyone was just ogling him at every possible moment. So it was kind of nice to see that swapped where everyone was like hot for Santa. In this one, who was like gender swapped Santa.
The vibe is so strange.
He's so strange. Like the landlord in this case. And then even the actual love interest was having some like confusing feelings about Santa while getting, you know, his free therapy sessions and staring deep into Santa's quote unquote eyes. I don't know what was happening with this script.
I think we should circle back to that scene that Abby touched on there. It's like, because Santa gets hired, which as we know, Santa is Taylor dressed up as Santa with some very high quality makeup. Her brother and his husband are very talented. And so she gets hired kind of on the spot because they've just auditioned all these shitty Santas that look horrible. And so she walks through the door, and granted, she has a little bit of a high voice, but the first role as Santa is apparently to be thrown into the men's locker room, which for some reason exists in this resort. So they're like, all right, Santa, get in there, get nude with the guys, and just, you know, boys being boys. And who walks around the corner but the love interest guy? And like you said, Sarah, for whatever reason, Santa gets barely, sorry, this is going to be hard. I'm going to say Santa. Santa doesn't get 2 words in before this guy is pouring his heart out to Santa about his feelings about his dad and meaning in his life and not feeling fulfilled in his new job. And he whips his towel off. So he's really bearing his soul to this complete stranger. And it's just interesting that she was kind of holding off on pursuing that to me, because he's obviously going to be a billionaire. He's pretty attractive. He's into her. So it was just sad that it took so many tribulations for her to realize she should be with him, you know?
Well, this is why you shouldn't, like, you know, box yourself in as a caregiver, because that's the thing, right? Is she's like, I threw my dreams away to be a mom because I can't be a rock star and be a mom. So this is just her learning to like really open herself back up to being her own person again.
Much like the chick from Hot Frosty.
Damn.
Yeah, this was like Hot Frosty meets Mrs. Doubtfire meets Mulan.
Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it.
All rolled up into one wonderful holiday package.
I do think we really need to talk about Tia Mowry's character, who is ostensibly the villain in this. Yeah. But really, she's just sabotaging a Nepo baby so that she can get a promotion that she's worked really hard for.
Yeah, but she's not a good mom, which we know is so
Which
important.
we find out later, you know. I mean, I was on her side. They play it like a villain, right? But one of the things with her, because she's painted as obviously kind of like a hyper competent woman and character in this, but then her reveal of Santa and what's going on with all of that is also kind of fumbling as well.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel in line.
Like you would do that in a back room and like murder that person
not
essentially
in public.
private.
Just hurting the business.
Yeah, hurting it, especially because as we've seen, whatever happens in this resort is on the local news instantly. Cameras on them at all times. So yeah, she wouldn't do it in public like that, revealing that Santa's a fraud. I don't know. Again, just one more pass at the script, and I feel like this really could have been a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, there's so many good elements in here that I would actually really love to see. I simply love a costume switch. So the whole like having to be cute. 2 people at the same party, love it. Yeah. But it's just the execution of the concepts is simply not there for me, unfortunately. Sorry to my Secret Santa. But
speaking of costume switching, how heavy do you think that costume was? Because they filled it with
lentils or whatever
lentils,
it was.
Yeah,
right?
It pops at one point. It's very awkward.
Yeah. And no one ever like goes back to talk about that.
It's weird that he had like a stomach full of lentils.
Right, exactly. But also so often in Santa's career, she takes a lot of breaks. Yeah. You know, she'll just randomly be like, and I'm done, you know, being Santa. And it's kind of like, is the no one's addressing this.
Lest we forget, she was an awful Santa for like the first several weeks of
Yes.
her role playing
Terrible.
Santa. Every child that came up, you'd be like, I want a Labubu. And she'd be like, look, kid, that shit's too expensive. Your parents are struggling. Like she was bringing her home life to the work floor every day, which is not something you're supposed to do. And it gets so bad that, as you say, this town with this very voracious media jumps right on the story and is just dragging the hotel through the mud. So they almost have to pull the whole plug on the son's management of the hotel until I forget what makes her good. But I know that something makes her realize she's got to like just chill out. And then after that, there's a kid that has a stutter, and they encourage the kid to sing, and it allows the kid to get over her stutter for a minute. And everybody films it on
Which
their
also
phones.
my worst nightmare as a child
Yeah.
in front of all the other
absolutely.
kids. No, it's crazy.
Yeah. So she learns. Part of the movie is about Taylor's realization that although she's been through a lot of shit in her life, she has to open herself up and really be at peace with the idea of marrying her into a rich family that would solve all of her problems, which she does, we're led to believe. And that's what makes everything right in this world in the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do like the class themes in this movie. When they go on a date finally and he tries to put her on the spot to play music up on stage, she recoils at that and leaves the restaurant. And she says to him, look, you don't understand. You're not used to consequences or hardship. I've been through the ringer because I was a mother at 19. And you can tell it affects him. And that class theme is pretty consistent because Tia Mowry's daughter comes from some level of privilege, you're led to believe, but she has less warmth in her family. So money, man. Money's not good.
I will say I would have really liked to see gosh, I can't even remember his name, the romantic lead in this movie, be slightly more of a fuck up, like we're told he's a fuck up.
Yeah.
Like he self-improves off screen. So really in my head, I'm just imagining post-canon, like after the movie, when she's having to deal with the fact that she's in a relationship and has a young daughter and her boyfriend is going off crashing cars into buildings. Like, girl, this man is not responsible.
Yeah.
You're right that the vibe is pretty much that he has already done most of his actual growth prior to most of this starting. Like we're just told that he's been in a ton of scandals. But throughout the movie, the main thing that he seems to be lacking, which he gets from his conversations with Santa, is just kind of realizing why he wants to be better and why he might have been acting out in the first place. It's more of a reflection on like, why was I bad rather than like, why am I still currently terrible?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a Christmas movie, right? So it's the vibe of like, it's all going to be okay. They're fine. He's actually totally responsible now, and it's going to be good. Totally responsible and rich, and everything's
Critically rich.
critically extremely rich. And the nepotism continues because this all results in her getting a permanent position at the resort to coordinate family events. You know, so everyone wins.
Because Tia Mowry hates children.
She gets sent off to England for a high-powered position there.
Oh, yeah. Did he keep the GM position there at the main resort? Is that...
I think
they don't
that's
explicitly state it, but that's kind of what it seems like, right?
That's the implication.
Fiefdom now.
Yeah.
So they're like, Tia's going to go run our dumb London resort.
And she's going to have to go live close to her ex-husband. Weird. Next year there's going to be a movie where she's like getting together with her ex again, and her like it's a whole thing.
Tia sign a multi-picture deal with Netflix? We have to look into this. That might be true.
I mean, I want this for her. Like, there's something to be said about the incredible job security of any like Netflix special, or I know all their Christmas movies, or a large majority of their Christmas movies, share like a cinematic universe. Like on The Night Before Christmas, which is the movie about the Arthurian knight who time travels. Falls in love. Like one of the Princess Switch movies is on a TV. So I guess the Princess Switch in the Netflix universe is a documentary of their life. So those are all connected.
It happened in Frosty too.
Yeah, it's steady paycheck if you can get it.
Oh,
I think
for
that's
sure.
also been said about the Hallmark thing because they kind of use the same stable of actors and it's kind of an amazing dream job. It's kind of equivalent to working on a soap opera where it's like really steady.
Yeah.
You're going to be there for 1,000 years. Like, unless you really fuck it up. Like, I've blocked her name out of my head, but she used to be a really huge Hallmark star who went full MAGA off the deep end and now is doing her own Christian network Christmas movies
geez.
because
Roseanne
that's all
Barr?
she has going for her. No, not quite. But yeah, like unless you really fuck it up, like you have got a job for 1,000 years because Netflix to a
Right.
certain extent is also like they want you to be young and hot, but you can also be kind of like in your 30s and 40s and still be making these movies.
Yeah, that's something I appreciated about this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got like the mom demographic, so they kind of want to have like older women, kind of, you know, older by Hollywood standards on TV and in these movies so that the audience of like moms who are watching the movies can identify with them, right?
I looked her up before we started recording between watching it, and she's in her early 40s. And so is the woman from Hot Frosty. And I just think that's nice.
Yeah.
It's also nice that they're kind of picking up largely actresses who in their like much younger years had been stars of something or at least been in like major productions, because obviously there was the Lindsay Lohan one that was kind of like overboard. Then in Hot Frosty, she was also in Mean Girls. And then in this one, we've got Tia Mowry, Sister. So there's always kind of like a familiar, almost nostalgic face as well. But Abby, I'm also glad that you mentioned the Princess Switch because the director of this movie directed those movies.
Those
as well.
movies
So-
are great. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. A+. They're all good.
Never saw that.
Yeah. So it's not only a stable security paychecks and stuff for actors, but I feel like the writers and directors and stuff often also get consistent work through these sorts of things. So it kind of seems fun. You know, if you're at the point where you're like, look, I'm not going to be at like a Shakespearean level. I'm just going to have a good time and make a paycheck from it. It seems pretty solid, honestly.
And Netflix too, if you're a leading man for Netflix, they'll even let you grow a beard apparently versus like Hallmark. That's not okay.
Really?
Oh, really?
I mean, you get like maybe a couple beards every, pun not intended, a couple beards every like season or whatever. But yeah, most of the Hallmark guys are like clean shaven.
I thought the leads in this were very attractive, both Taylor and Matthew. I thought they looked good together. Although I thought it would have been cool. What would have made it more interesting would be, like you said, if there was a little bit more of an indication of Matthew's dark history, like if he had a little relapse or something, or if he had a little side romance with Tia.
Yeah, I want them both to get better like together and not just her. And that's kind of there, but it could have been a much stronger theme of like her learning to relax and him learning to get a little bit more serious and that kind of thing.
Yeah. For her, though, it was like returning a little bit to her punk rock roots, right? Reclaiming that. And then for him, I don't really know. Just being better.
Having an ounce of responsibility ever in your life, understanding consequences. It was a little more down to earth, less magic than last year. No magic, actually.
No, zero. I do appreciate that apparently, because so many of these movies obviously are filmed on like sets or filmed in warm, sunny California. Because I don't know if you guys notice, but so often when they're outside in those scenes, the breath is so visible while they're speaking. And I was like, was this because they were actually filming in like a very cold climate, or were they just here with like some fog machine and just like, we got to make it feel
After
authentic? Yeah, After Effects.
Giant walk-in fridge.
But apparently it was filmed actually at a ski resort in British Columbia.
Cool. See, great gig if you can get it.
So the scenery was beautiful and that was real. And the cold was apparently very real. There was like an extra cold snap while they were filming. So it was something like negative 35 degrees or something. So also like props to everyone for powering through so that we could get My Secret Santa.
So one thing, just another plot hole that comes to mind is as they're searching for a Santa, there is just this perfect candidate to play Santa sitting there the entire time. And it is a humble, one would think like failed actor, maybe former Disney adult named Jimmy, who works as a very large elf at the resort.
Yeah.
And he has the perfect built. He's really enthusiastic about Christmas.
Very
and they just
jolly.
never even give him the chance to audition for Santa. Instead, they're hiring this woman in a Miss Doubtfire situation. It's very strange. I mean, even at the end, you know what would have really taken this movie above and beyond is if her and the boyfriend had their musical performance at the end, but Jimmy was the one that came out as Santa, because at that point, who cares, you know?
Yeah.
They have to have a Santa.
Yeah, you're
Crown
right.
him the new Santa.
That would have been a really nice bow on the whole thing. Jimmy was right there the whole time.
Yeah, justice for Jimmy. I feel like him and Tia are kind of in the same boat of like really getting passed over for like nepotism or I guess the whims of fate. I don't know.
But he never showed interest in it.
That's
you know,
true.
I think Jimmy just wanted to be an elf. I bet this is the backstory in my head on Jimmy, because he was so much would have been the perfect Santa and it would have been so easy. I feel like prior to these movies events, they had asked him and he was like, I really want to be an elf. And they were like, but Jimmy, you do not look like the standard elf that we would be hiring. You would fit Santa a lot more. But he was just so had his heart set on being an elf that they were like, you know what, play a giant elf. So I think Jimmy actually was exactly where he wanted to be. And that's what other characters throughout the movie were aspiring to do, to really like identify what do they want in life and how to go for it. And Jimmy was already
Wow,
there.
Jimmy's really the heart and soul of this movie.
Truly. Yeah.
It's true, though. Some people don't want to be the number one person in charge, right? Sometimes you want to just comfortably follow someone else's lead, right?
I like that feeling. But Sarah, your interpretation of Jimmy just made me visualize that scene from The Sopranos where they force Bobby Bacala to be Santa, but it's Jimmy, and it's like Tia Mowry and everybody else trying to, you're going to be Santa. He's like, I'm shy. But Jimmy wasn't shy. He was a great hype elf.
Yeah.
So every time there was like a function in the town or at the resort, they'd have a Christmas night, which they seemed to do over and over again. Every other night was some kind of tree lighting or concert or something in the town square. And there was this group of guys that would show up to every event and they would heckle so much. One would assume they were really pre-gaming before they got there. But the poor Nepo baby, Matthew, it's like his first night giving a speech. And they're like, speak up, like, oh, move a little quick. Like, it's very hostile. One would think the entire town's economy is totally dependent on this resort. So I don't understand their attitude they had toward really their ruling dynasty there. But those guys needed to settle down. I don't know why they weren't removed, because it happened multiple times through the movie. They were big hecklers at all these events.
I wanted him to like address them by name at the end. That would have been
Removed them from the province, from the county.
What did you say when we were watching it? Execute them.
Execute them. Yeah.
Sarah had a very Game of Thrones mentality.
Or they just have like, I don't know, some sort of, what is that, snow sledding sort of thing where you're just prone in the little like
Luge?
ice tunnel. Luge. Yeah, just luge right off the mountain. Yeah.
They're very uppity town peasants. What else?
What else is there to talk about with this movie?
I don't know that there's really too much more to say.
Like the brother and
the
his
bottom of the
husband, they
barrel.
were cute. Their apartment has all just like horror movie stuff and classic glammy stuff. And they're very integral to switching her costume during the pivotal Christmas party where she's playing both people at the same time.
The Santa cruising scene is in fact worth watching this movie for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something we could touch on because Matthew goes in the men's room while Taylor is
don't
doing
spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Okay. All right, I won't.
It's perfect.
But it causes some confusion.
I feel like Santa cruising scene really sells everything about this movie. And if that doesn't pique your interest, then I think nothing will about this movie.